Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Building World Peace, an interview series showcasing modern mission school initiates from all walks of life who are working for the same mission of building world peace. I'm Ling, I'm your host. I am a guide, a teacher, and a ritual master in this ancient lineage of King Solomon with a modern mystery school. And today I have with me a fellow initiate, Jeannie Vassos with me, and I'm super excited to interview her and to hear her story, and also to listen to her vision of world peace. Hi, Jeannie.
Hello.
Jeannie, could you introduce yourself briefly to all of the viewers and listeners?
Okay, so a brief introduction would be I just became a grandmother a few months ago. So I'm a mother, wife. I've worked in various industries in my youth, but right now I'm semi retired entrepreneur, and I also am a healer, teacher, guide, ritual master in the lineage of King Solomon.
Thank you, Jeannie. So, for those who just stumbled upon this video by chance and they don't exactly understand who we're talking about, could you,
Mhm.
could you explain what the modern mystery school is, and also share with us what it means to you?
Okay, so just like its name, Modern Mystery School, it is a school. And I would say it is best described as a school of metaphysics, hermetics, and spirituality. And there's a lot that encompasses a lot of different classes, a lot of different training, and it's all about your own personal progression. Sometimes it is referred to as the University of the Soul. So, what it means to me is it is a place that gives you tools and experiences and knowledge and information to discover the real, true you, me, who I truly am, and why I'm here. And I find it is the best place that I've found to up level myself, for me to always be striving to get to that next best level. That's what it is to me.
I always love asking that question to all the people that come on the interviews because they all have like little pieces that are different. Yeah. So, Jeannie, could you share with us your story? How did you get here?
Yes, of course. Just I'll try and be brief with the past. I think I had a pretty average life, a regular life, that you would think is just normal. I, went to school. I got married. I had children. I worked in a few jobs, financial industry, the municipal government. I've worked in retail, and somewhere in the middle there, after I had children, I started asking or started thinking like, okay, what next? Like I like some of my jobs. What next? And in that process, I began working for the family business, my parents' business, which gave me some more freedom to actually think about these questions. So I read a lot of books. I attended a lot of seminars, classes. Um, I'm going to say, as part of the New Age movement, I delved into those. And I was searching and searching and searching. I couldn't find answers. I thought to look at religion. I thought, philosophy. I didn't know exactly where to look. Like everything sounded good. Everything that I read, it sounded good. It felt good. But there was an underlying feeling of there is more to this life. There has to be more to this life, because as much as I love my husband and kids and I have a good life, there was something inside me that felt unfulfilled. And I'd even looked at, maybe I should try another career or go back to school or all sorts of things. My mind went the full broad spectrum. And it wasn't until I got an invitation to a sacred geometry class and astral travel class. They were together at the same time. And I was reading the description and on the email, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is about. I have no clue. I'm going to hold off. But that email it just kept showing itself to me. I didn't delete it, so it kept showing itself to me. I click it again, and I'm like, I don't even like math anymore. I don't know what sacred geometry is about. Um, Anyways, long story short, I went to the classes. They were taught by a guide with the Modern Mystery School, and at the end of the class, she gave us sort of a little pamphlet saying the other services and classes that the Modern Mystery School offered. And there was something called a life activation. And it just like clicked, like, oh, well, maybe that's something that I need. And so I asked her about it. And I don't even know what her answer was. I really have no idea. But I made an appointment with her shortly after and found that I didn't even know what happened. I just knew something happened. And I began to get very clear. Or I felt clear. I felt like a fog had lifted and I was looking at the world through different eyes. And I think a lot of people have those experiences throughout their life, but this felt different. And I still couldn't put my finger on it. Um, and then shortly after, about a year after, actually, I did Empower Thyself. And again, went through the class. I really didn't remember hardly any of the teachings. But I knew walking away from the class that something was different with me. And there was a feeling of calm, a feeling of just more stability, something. And I, again, didn't know what it was, just knew something was different. Of all the other things I'd done, something was different. And so that was way back in 2009. And since then, I've become a ritual master, third step ritual master, guide, healer, teacher, and I am also a School of the Mage student and in the apprentice programs. So I've just found that there's always more to learn. There are, no matter what I'm doing or how long it takes, whether it's short or long or whatever, there's always some fruits. There's always something good that's come out of any class I've done or healing I've done, and ultimately am really living my life the way I want to now and getting that fulfillment.
Thank you, Jeannie. One of the thing I love your story, and also I love the way you kind of told it. You know, Jeannie, and I've met Jeannie in person too. For like those who don't know her, she always has this like, whew, like calming presence, which is really cool. So one of the things you mentioned briefly that caught my interest was how you've had different careers and you had a good life, had a good you still do, but like your life was good at that point, and yet you
Yeah,
still felt like something was missing. And I think, this may just be me, but I feel like that's the other side of, I guess, that's the other part of, because there's many reasons why people would seek healing, or in this case, people would seek the mission school. And I think there's, for some people, maybe people who are watching, there may be like a perception that you only need these kind of things if you're like messed up, or like if you're like at the rock bottom and, whatnot. But I know for myself or you and for many others, right? There's so many people who are already successful, depending on what you look at, but can be considered successful and yet still feel like there's more, or yeah, so that there's something missing. So yeah, thank you for sharing that part. I think yeah, so that's why I wanted to highlight that little piece, especially for those who may be struggling with the idea. I know I did. I've had that. Back when I felt like I already have everything that many people ask for. Like, why am I so ungrateful to even want more? Yeah, thank you for sharing that piece. And another thing too you were talking about is I think it's funny how you said that you don't remember much of Impale Thyself, nor you don't even know what live activation did, and yet how long ago was that?
I had the life activation in 2008. And then I
Okay,
attended Empower Thyself in 2009.
so that's like what 13 years later, you're still here.
I didn't know what the life activation was, and I didn't remember anything from Empower Thyself. But now I, obviously am a life activation practitioner. So I give life activations to those who are looking. And then I also teach Empower Thyself. So I now know it inside out and backwards as opposed to not remembering anything.
Yeah, and it actually can be a common experience. I think sometimes when we get into our mind, when we do something a little bit different, like life activation or empower ourselves, we want to understand, we want to know, right? There's
Yeah.
that mental need, because we think that, oh, you have to understand it to be able to benefit from it. But that's the beauty of lineage tool, right? Is that if you show up, at least like at this level, like when you show up, when you're there for yourself, for your own progression, then you're gonna get something. And then the further understanding, to understand things further, that's up to you if you choose to use the tools, if you choose to study further.
Yep, exactly.
And another thing too that Jeannie, I don't think you mentioned, but I know, so that's why I'm bringing it up, is that you also have your daughter, at least one of your family member. I don't know about the rest.
Hmm.
Stephanie, who is also has been to school at a very young age, and she's actually one of the Warrior of Light instructors. That that it's a program for the ritual masters, the Warrior Path on the school. So she's been to school for a while, and I always thought that it's so fascinating that you have a mother and daughter duo, who are doing this.
Yeah, so I have, let me think now, one, two, three, four other family members along with Stephanie that have who are initiates. Um, and I have quite a few, although not my entire family, but extended family, but quite a few of my extended family and my husband's extended family that have received the life activation. So, but in regards to Stephanie, it's an interesting story, and it's really her story to tell. So maybe someday you can get her story. I came back from a class, came home, and we were sitting on the couch, and she was very curious, and she said, "Mom, where were you today? What were you doing?" And so I explained as best as I could. And I say that in all honesty, like I really, sometimes you can't explain what the class is about, right? And I explained as best as I could. And she said, "Oh, can I come?" And I said, "Well, no, you can't come to this one. Like, we're right in the middle of it. But you can come to some other ones for sure." And she was quite young at the time. And another interesting, another interesting little tidbit about Stephanie is that when we had both done healers one, and she saw that Ritual Master was on the calendar, and she said, "Mom, I can't drive there myself because I don't have my driver's license. So you have to take me. So you have to do the class with me." Yeah. And so, I read the description and I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that sounds really good. Dealing with your negative ego. This is really good stuff. Okay, okay, we'll do it. Well, it was quite the step in our progression, and she handled it very well. She was completely ready for it, and there's obviously a reason that she needed to do that back then. And I just kind of got dragged, not kicking and screaming, but kind of behind her, like, "Oh, okay, this is Warriors of Light. What?" So yeah, and her story is, even though she does do both sides, the healer and the warrior side, she she's really passionate about the warrior side. She really enjoys instructing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's so cool that you two started the ritual master path at the same time.
Well, we
And
also
wow.
did level 2 and third step at the same time.
Wow. Wow, this is so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I don't think it's ever gonna happen to me. Actually, no, it won't happen to me because I'm already a third step.
yeah,
But but it's a nice it's a nice feelings
yeah,
to be able to progress together with your family. And this is
yeah,
also and it also shows the fact that not only does this work, but it works so well that we want to share with our family and with the people that we care about the most,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
um, so Jeannie, the topic of this whole interview series is about world peace. So I want to ask you a few questions about world peace, and the first one is, what does world peace look like to you?
I think if you had asked me this before I started this path, I would have said just no more war, right? That's a really simple answer. No more war. The countries get along. But as you know, I've delved into this to discover what I think world peace should look like or would look like. It starts off that everyone is taken care of, that nobody is starving, nobody's in any harm, everyone has their basic needs met. And then after that, well, there's so much I can say. But after that, I would, what is very passionate to me is about our medical community and how the medical system needs a bit of an overhaul, and that the integration of science and spirituality merge in order for our medical system to be the optimal way it could possibly be. Um, because I think there's a lot of suffering in the world, and I would that's one step that I would really like to see with world peace, because I think when people are not in pain and they're not suffering, then they begin to have that level of inner peace, and then they begin to care for themselves and the people around them and the people that are further, like not even around them, other people across the world. They start to think differently because they're not so consumed with their own suffering. And so that would change. The medical system would change. The education system would change. We would have a lot more instruction on, you know, I guess you could say personal things like how to deal with our emotions, how to calm ourselves down in tense situations, how like all the skills that are not currently taught in our education system. Of course, I would really, really, really like that at some point in the school system for young people that a life activation would be included in that. And I don't know how this would fit, but initiation as well. I think that would really, really have the world progressive, supportive, and having everyone be able to live their lives as they're meant to be, as opposed to where it is now, where people are just surviving. There's a lot of corruption, and you know, we all know what's how the world is right now. There's so much more about world peace, but I think the aspect of spirituality, kindness, compassion, all empathy, all that kind of stuff has to be part of everyone. Everyone has to have that somehow. And I do believe all people are good. I just feel that at this point we are so distracted by other things, our own pain and suffering, but other things that are happening in the world or whatever, that sometimes we forget to be kind. And sometimes we forget to think of our brothers and sisters. And I think world peace is possible. We're almost there.
When you mentioned the live activation and the Empower Thyself class and the initiation being part of education, I also thought of, especially for a little kid, it would be really cool to have some form of the universal Kabbalah teachings
Yes.
embedded. in it too, right? Because so for the viewers and listeners who are not aware, on the mystical path, there is a 10-month ascension program called a universal Kabbalah. So this is not like a religious, this is not Jewish or Christian version, things like that. But this is universal for it. It works for everybody, and for me, that program has been really helpful in helping me organize my mind. Like there are basically like 10 different drawers that I can put different thing from my mind in, and be able to understand what's happening, and and it also helps a lot with learning how to create the life that you want. So I think that would be really good skill for kids to learn at a young age.
Yeah, I appreciate that you brought that up because I did, allude to it by just saying we need to learn how to handle our emotions and all that. But
Right, right, yeah.
Kabbalah is very, very near and dear to my heart. And yes, I would hope that someday we can start including or integrating a lot of the teachings into the school system. That would be fantastic. It would be amazing. It would. My heart's. I'm getting goosebumps. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a goal. Another thing you mentioned, Jeannie, which I'm curious about, you mentioned specifically like the medical community as part of your vision of world peace.
Mhm.
Do you mind, like, if you don't mind, is there a specific reason why you mentioned the medical community specifically, or yeah?
Yes and no. I guess I don't know if there's anything specific. I know that there was a time in my early 20s when I was working at a bank, and I was just wanting to look for something else, and I looked into massage therapy. I thought that was a good way in because I didn't have any science background. I didn't have any medical background, and so I thought, oh, I should try massage therapy. But I thought, and so looking back, it's I wanted to help people. I knew that there was things that uh, were not mainstream or that were not part of everyone's everyday life that can really, really help people. And shortly after that, I went to a naturopath and chiropractor, and I started to really, I was fascinated by all the different alternative or non medical health and wellness modalities. And this was even before spirituality or energy healings. And I was fascinated by homeopathy, and I took some introductory classes. But you have to realize at that time I was working, I was married, I had two kids. It's like I can't just suddenly go off and become a chiropractor or something as much as I wanted to do that. So there's a part of me that just, I've delved into and looked into so many different, and I've experienced, and sometimes I would just make an appointment to experience something, like, oh, what is this? What is osteopathy? And go make some appointments just to see what the benefits are, because there are so many different perspectives of what it would take to help us, and even, I mean, that, ultimately, I know the energy healing and the empowerment we get in Empower Thyself, that changes our perspective of who we are. And there's such a massive healing to that obviously that's what I do and that's what I promote. Obviously, that's where I was headed and led to. But not everyone's there yet. And sometimes they have to unpeel the layers, and they have to unpeel the layers of their physical health or their mental health to get to that next stage. And so to me, it's like there's this big block, it's the medical system just hasn't expanded the way it should. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but yeah, I guess the other part of it is if you watch Star Trek or have watched Star Trek, they would go into go there with the doctor, and they do this little scan, and it'd be like, okay, this, and give you this, and then like an hour later they're healthy and fine, and it's like that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. So
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That, yeah, that I was just curious because for some reason it just felt like you were very specific about the medical community, and I didn't know, like I didn't know that you had any prior experience with medicines. That's why I asked. But I mean,
Yeah,
you brought
not
up a
really.
really good, but you brought up a really good point. So one thing that our one of our teachers, Ipsissimus Dave Lanyon, has said a lot, but it's just something that I've also come to understood is, you know, it's human beings, but also as the divine, divine being that we are,
Right.
or in the mystical school we call, as a god and goddesses that we are so we're multidimensional, and so we're so complex, right? Like our physical bodies are already complex. Like I don't know how much percentage we actually understand about the brain, right? So the physical body is already so complex, but then we add on it the different auras, the different energetic bodies, right? So because of that, there's probably not one thing. So no, there's definitely not one thing that can help you, achieve everything, right? Like, even like what you were saying, like sometimes people may need to work a little bit more on their physical body, or on their mental, or emotional health before they're ready for a session, or empower themselves. But in my case, I know many people too, like, even though we've gone so far on the path, sometimes we still have to, you know like reach out for, maybe like a natural path, or like there's just so many different tools, um, for different purposes. um,
Yeah.
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 Because we're very complicated.
We have a physical body. We live in this physical world, and we do have aches and pains and physical problems with our physical body, and so we need to take care of that. And whether it be through a doctor, because I'm not dismissing any of that, but that there's so much that we need to look at or can look at, and it to me, it just I just wish it was more widely accepted and
Integrated,
um,
yeah.
integrated. You're right, and there was really good protocols in place that so it's easy for people to navigate. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew like the definition of a physician. Like if you look it up on Google, sometimes it comes out this way, sometimes it doesn't. But if you look at on Google, it says that a physician is somebody who heals physical and spiritual ills, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that very word is already is already in, two sides of us, physical and
Yeah.
spiritual. But yeah, you're right, like definitely the medic you know the Western medicine, I would say, has gone really far away from spirituality,
Yeah.
that yeah, I mean, in doing so we have limited our own capability to heal.
Yeah.
So back to back to world peace. We got off track a
Right.
little bit. uh, you mentioned that you believe that world peace is possible. Was there a moment that made you realize that, or was it just like something, that, I don't know, you've always believed in, or something like that?
No, I'm going to say there was a time I didn't believe in it. I honestly thought it was not going to happen, and that you know my job was to do the best to survive and protect myself and my family from anything that could possibly. And I live in Canada. We don't have a lot of threats here, right? But that was my mindset. And I would say that I began to believe that world peace was possible when I began to feel inner peace. And I don't know exactly when that was. I would like to say, oh, it's when I had the life activation, and that might have been it. But there was a few things I, did in the beginning, the life activation, and a few healings and empower thyself, and a few classes like sacred geometry and all those. And that feeling of peace came in, and I liked it. And that's when I kind of knew that, well, if I have this, other people need this. Like, so if everyone had this, but realistically or logically or matter of factly, I think it was beginning the ritual master path that sort of anchored it in, like, no, it is possible. It is possible. We just have to work at it. We just have to work on ourselves. We have to, serve other people to help them achieve that inner peace. And I would say, now I'm again, I don't know, maybe it was when I was a guide, but somewhere along the line there. But I wouldn't know it would exist unless I felt it myself.
Thank you. Yeah, I could feel it all the way from here. And of course, right, like you've been doing this for 12, 13 years, and it must be because you believe or you even know that it's possible, right? That's why I think that's why any of us in the mission school is doing this at all. It's because we know that it's possible. Otherwise, why bother, right?
Yeah.
Or we at least we have
Yeah.
hope that it's possible.
I think I'm just going to add on to that a little bit more. I think that when I started to realize it was possible was when I realized that I had a part to play, and I couldn't just say, "Oh, let them create world peace." And when I took responsibility, then I realized, okay, this is possible.
Yes, that is so true. Yeah, you have a part to play. I have a part to play. We all have like unique, I usually say it as unique puzzle pieces, right, to put in. Um, and if we
Yeah.
don't do it, then our brothers and sisters have to, fill in. But ultimately, it's our responsibility to do that. And Jeannie, with your vision of world peace, I know there are many layers to it. And we can talk about that, about the visions forever. But could you share with us how have you and how are you contribute on your playing your part in building world peace?
Um, but the first step of that answer is simply that my part is to help people achieve that, and even if it's holding a max meditation so that someone could have that, so that they can actually experience that peace, even just for a moment, and and like, wow, what was that? And then whether they continue searching with me or they continue searching for their inner peace, then that's great. Whatever, but to give them that moment. So obviously, it's something like that: the life activation, the healings, empower thyself. Um, that's you know, I'm going to say that's my role in this piece. That's the piece of the puzzle for me. However, I would say that a more important piece is um, my own my own inner peace, my own progression, my own expression of who I am, my own my own training, my own dedication, my own discipline. I think that is a huge piece of how I'm contributing to world peace. It sounds, I don't know what other people, if I go back to all those years ago when I thought, oh, just stop wars, the countries have to get along, then what I'm saying right now kind of sounds like, what are you talking about? But I know that when I'm calm, peaceful, experiencing joy, experiencing that creative spark, all those good things, experience the beauty and stillness and all that, it is having that ripple effect to whoever's ready for it and whoever wants to experience it. So, in a way, it's almost more important that I'm doing what I need to do, uh, and also offering it to others.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so easy to kind of point outside and to say, that has to change, this has to change, that has to stop. It's so easy. And sure, there are many problems with the world, but, today, in this moment, are you able to stop world wars? Probably not. But are you able to stop the war going within you? you know, to an extent, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's part of the reason I'm doing this series too, is to help people kind of expand. One is to demystify world peace, but also help them expand that their level of awareness of their of what they can do to build world peace. And most of that, I would say, start from within, like what you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. For sure. Definitely.
Jeannie, we are
Hmm.
at time, almost
Okay.
at the end of the video, and I have two questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
The first one is, for what are your words of wisdom for the people who are watching and listening to this? What what do you want to share with them that can help them on their path of progression?
I guess the first thing I would say is to remember um, that you have choice in whatever aspect or issue that is going on with your life. You have choice. It was Obsessimus Dave who said we have a minimum. This is a martial arts teaching. We have a minimum of 9 perspectives to every problem, 9 answers, 9 directions that we can choose, minimum. And a lot of people don't realize that. I didn't realize that. And so we have choice. I think that's the most important. I mean, I can obviously say, please find someone who can do a life activation, try it out, experience it. It's a wonderful thing. You may not understand it. I don't understand it. I do understand it now, you know, but um, wherever you are, just wherever you are in your life, find your next step.
Thank you, Jeannie. Yeah, the wow, 9 choices, like 9 options. I guess 9 options, and then for any problem, at least. That's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I think something that I can kind of offer for the viewers, regarding kind of expand on your point is, for example, right now, right, we are talking, right? We're talking because you made a choice to stay here and talk to me, and I did the same thing. Because I could just choose to end this interview, walk out of the house, and do something else, right? That's so. I think usually people don't think of that as being a choice,
Yeah.
right? There's like they just take what they're doing for granted, but they're doing it because they're choosing to do it. So yeah, thank you. That helps me too with the 9 choices. Now I have to to remember to count my options.
Well, you might not need to
um,
know what those 9 are,
and
but at least know that you have more than one. Yeah. Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's something that the past 2 months after becoming a third step ritual master, I've been starting realizing how limited, like, my viewpoint sometimes can be, where, I have a problem, and then, usually, there's a one, like, what's it called? Well walked path,
Yeah.
but then, but then when that path doesn't work, having to take other paths. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a skill that everybody can learn. um so I have one last question for you, Jeannie.
Yeah.
For whoever is watching this video or listening to this video, to the audio, and they love talking, they love hearing you, they love listening to you, and they love your story, and they may be interested in working with you and getting live activation or empower thyself, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, my name is pretty unique, so you could probably just Google Jeannie Vassos. But I am on Facebook, Instagram, and my company name is The Middle Pillar. And so you could Google that as well. But most importantly, because this is an interview with initiates, and you are constantly talking about the Modern Mystery School. On the Modern Mystery School website, if you scroll down to the very bottom, there is a list of certified people, certified healers, life activation practitioners, and guides, and a few other certifications. And I'm in the guide list. I'm also in the life activation list. So yeah, that's probably the best. You know, whatever someone recognizes, whether it's my name or Modern Mystery School or Middle Pillar, you can find me.
Cool, thank you. And yeah, I'll add all the contact information on the video as well as in the description box.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I love the questions.
Yeah,
I love talking about this too.
yeah. Thank you, Jeannie. I love talking to you. And yeah, I'm gonna see you again in person
Yeah.
sometime next year, when we gather again. Um, yeah, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, Jeannie. Bye, everyone.